Frank, thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me today. To begin our interview, could you please give me a summary of your position as a security engineer at GE and Interlogics, and also describe what your day-to-day responsibilities are?
Yes, my assigned responsibilities included those of a training program manager and a technical support engineer.
Perfect. So, considering your great deal of experience in the business world, as you've already begun to explain, I'm sure you would agree that effective business communication is essential in practically any type of job. Moving forward, I would like to discuss your personal communication methods, abilities, and approaches with you. Firstly, how would you describe your communication style?
Assertive, passive. So assertive as training. So what you want to always do is present yourself as an expert. And you're assertive when you do that, and more passive when you're trying to troubleshoot and support products.
Do you think that others, such as your friends, family, or even past coworkers and bosses, would describe your communication style differently?
No, I think they probably agree that assertive, although some people may mistake assertiveness with arrogance because you're trying to present yourself as an expert. So you have to be cautious of that.
I agree. What is your preferred method of communication?
As far as the type of communication, written communication is my preferred method.
Written. So you prefer texts such as emails or instant messages over, say, phone calls?
I do. I'd have to say that I'll have to show my age here, is that we didn't do very much texting. It was mostly email or other forms of written communication when I was in business.
Right. In your opinion, which is more important, being a good listener or being a good communicator?
I think to be a good communicator, you have to be a good listener. There's no other way for you to be a good communicator unless you understand the audience or the people you are trying to train.
So ultimately, to sum up your communication style, is there a single word that you think completely summarizes how you communicate?
Again, assertive would be probably how you'd look at me.
Moving on, I'm hoping that you can tell me about some of your personal experiences with business communications throughout your career. So did the position you held at your job ever require you to give any type of presentations?
When training, you're always giving presentations. That's the method of training.
Going off of the best way to communicate, how did you ensure that your audience understood all of the presented information?
Usually audience involvement, so you can usually tell when you're presenting products or presenting concepts or any type of technical information by the questions you get, by the look on people's faces. You can begin to understand what they're grasping from the information that's presented.
How did you most often give those presentations?
Most of the time, those presentations were given in front of a live audience using PowerPoint and live product demonstrations.
Okay. So, as a security engineer, the position you held, you likely were working daily with very advanced technology. Have you ever had a difficult time with accurately conveying or explaining any complex concepts or ideas to someone else?
In my position, it was very difficult because we had such a wide range of people in the audience. Some people had extensive technical backgrounds, they were engineers, and some people had very little knowledge or education, and so it was very difficult for us to present concepts, technical concepts, and present products without beginning right at the basic level, which sometimes people who were more advanced would be bored. So that was a challenge.
So, because in your audience there is such a different range of education levels, have you ever had an experience where you felt you hadn't communicated something as effectively as you wanted to in your workplace?
Yes, I mean, it's evolution. You're always questioning yourself when you're training. Am I reaching the subjects? Am I not reaching them? What are they grasping? What didn't I present well? And that is just something that evolves over a long period of time, and after every class, you're looking at it again. Now we gave, at the end of the class, you'd always give a quiz to try to get feedback from the students of what they learned, what they didn't learn, so the next class you could do better. I mean, it was just an evolution.
Right. So on the other hand, have you ever had an experience, a specific experience where you felt strongly that you communicated important information very successfully or even flawlessly?
You hope to always walk away feeling that, but you're always second guessing yourself and questioning yourself, and also saying, I can do a better job of this particular aspect. Again, just by the look on people's faces or the feedback you get through the quiz results and etc. I can always do a better job.
Because in your experiences you've had to communicate so much with so many different people and in so many different situations, have you ever had an experience where you felt that experience related to work where you had to relay bad news or some type of delicate information to someone?
You're, in a corporate environment, you're always dealing with delicate information because you're dealing with corporate, insider corporate information. So from that aspect, you have to be cautious not to give out sensitive information. But I mean, it's not only the product information and the technology that you have to be cautious with. You have to, as you move up the ladder and you have management positions, you have to release people. In my time at General Electric, we had to evaluate every employee every year. And for example, the top 90% of the employees were retained every year. The bottom 10%, regardless of what the issue was, whether it was a personal issue, etc., were released every year. So we had to release people, give them bad news, which is not a pleasant thing.
Right. Is there any certain way that you found best to communicate that unfortunate news to people?
It's always best just to be honest, and in the case of the releasing employees, it's just that they needed to improve their skill sets.
Right. Would you have meetings with them one-on-one in person?
Always, evaluations were always done one-on-one.
Okay.
In live one-on-one.
Okay. So, as you've alluded to, communication is obviously an ever-changing aspect of the business world. And as we all know, there are methods of communication used now that did not exist 50 or even 20 years ago. And these methods are constantly advancing and progressing. So, at your job, how did you most often communicate with your employers and managers?
Well, again, it's evolution. I mean, my career began before fax machines, and before, I know that's not even comprehensive to some people, but before fax machines and cell phones and laptops, etc. So we evolved. Just as those technologies became available, we took those products on, or those skills on, and utilize them, just as you would in PowerPoint or any other type of technology.
So in communicating in your job, did you find a great difference in, say, how you communicated with your coworkers and then how you communicated with your bosses or employers?
The means to communicate and the speed with which we communicated obviously evolved with those technologies. So we couldn't communicate that quickly, in the 80s and the 90s as we did, in 2010. So it evolved much faster, which was much better for the customer, but also, again, bad news travels fast, so it traveled faster with new technology.
Right. When you worked for the company, to your knowledge, did they have a website or even any types of social media?
Website, of course, but social media was, if anything, in its infancy then. So,
right. So, if you happen to know, does the company you worked for currently have any social media accounts like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram?
I'm sure they do now, yes.
Do you personally think that social media is an effective way for businesses to market and or communicate with, say, customers, distributors, and other people in the business world?
I do. I think it can be used positively, although I believe, as we see today in politics, it can be used very negatively as well. So it has, I think, good aspects because you can reach the customers quick, but it also has some negative aspects as well.
Right, and because you see both the positive and negative aspects of that, Do you think that people who work in the business world today benefit from the instantaneousness of modern communications? For example, the ability for customer service representatives of a company to send instant messages to customers over social media?
That is a benefit, no question about it, to reach customers quickly.
To kind of sum up your experiences, if today you were to go back to GE and resume the same exact job position that you held before, what do you think would be different in terms of communication?
Again, we were using most of the training techniques via e-learning and that sort of communication as I left. So I mean, those elements are still there today.
Right, and kind of a similar question. If you could go back in time, knowing about the progression in communication that has occurred over the past several decades and years that you pointed out in our interview, and with the ability to take advantage of this modern technology, is there anything you would want to change about how you carried out your job-related responsibilities when you worked for GE?
Well, not in real time, not change them because those technologies the more advanced technologies weren't available then. We used the technology that was available to us at the time. And those methods, whatever was the fastest, whatever was the most comprehensive is what we used at the time.
Right.
So in the end, when we had virtual training labs available, 8 or 10 years ago, we used virtual training as well. Today, I'm sure that's advanced a little bit more. In other words, the tools that you can bring into those virtual labs have advanced. Certainly, if I went back, we'd take advantage of that.
Right. So obviously, GE is a large, wide-scale corporation, pretty widely known. Do you think that even while you were working there, that they did well with progressing as the technology progressed? You don't think that they lagged behind in using the modern communication methods and technology?
Not at all. Anything that was available, we took advantage of, including, again, e-learning, including virtual training to reduce travel, to increase our bottom line. We took advantage of all of those. Again, I believe that technology has evolved to be even more comprehensive today, so certainly there would be advantages to today's technology.
Right. Well, you've given us a lot of great information today, so thank you again so much.